How's it going? My name's Miriam and I'm a poet, and I'm sitting, as you can see, in an armchair, hence the armchair poet. Now I wanted to share two pieces with you today, one of which is mine and another is written by a woman called Rebecca Tantony, and she's one of my favourites, but I will come back to her in a moment, because we're going to start off with a piece called Desert. Now this piece was written in the desert overlooking the Dead Sea in Jordan and visiting the site of Herod's old castle. But it was actually written about a different desert. It was written about Sinai desert. And I was reflecting on the story in the Bible of God's people leaving Egypt and traveling around and almost going into a land that he had promised to them, but showing through their words and actions that actually they didn't get it, they weren't ready. And so God says, no, actually we're going to spend another 40 years in the desert. And there's a whole range of reasons why he says that. Part of it's punishment, part of it is so that a whole new generation can be born who understands and is ready and learns. And part of it is this idea of a generation-long Sabbath, a complete renewal of this nation's understanding of itself. If you think of the Sabbath as a day once a week or a regular remembering whenever you do that, that your identity is not in what you produce or what you create, it's in who you are in God, which is what the Sabbath is about. It's that break to stop us from identifying ourselves from ourselves and who we are and what we do, but identifying ourselves in God and remembering who God is and knowing who God is. And so part of the exile, I think, is this generation-long Sabbath, because God's people didn't get it and they needed help. And sometimes you need to have a whole new generation and years of learning that, for that to sink right into the bones. And I think so much of our lives is God giving us those moments of Sabbath to remember who he is and who we are in him and what that actually means. So this piece is written about that, and it's called Desert, appropriately. And it goes like this. 40 years to untangle the soul. The scars of slavery run deep. Calluses of servitude, a desperate and selfish heart of a nation broken with beatings too many times to trust God. 40 years to untangle the soul. Teach us how not to be slaves or slave masters. Be the buffer where the flow of hurt stops. Break the circuit built in to our backs from 400 years of slavery. Teach us, oh, teach us how to be free. Lord, who heals, unwinds, untangles our souls, we have grown crooked with fear, our eyes opaque with slavery. How much divine spit must be rubbed in our eyes before we see reality and not just trees walking around. Lord, who heals, unwinds, untangles our souls, we need you to take us away from the crowd to a quiet place and heal our beings with mud made of your spit and dust. From dust to dust, renew your creation act, regrow what you did in the first, untangle our souls, and send us out to live and speak of your freedom. 40 years to untangle the soul. And that's the end of that piece. I'd love to hear how you take time to remember who you are, your identity, and who you are in God and who God is. What are the things that stop you from putting your identity in what you produce or what you create or what others think of you. What are the circuit breakers for that? Now the second piece is, as I said, by Rebecca Tantony, and it's in a book called Singing My Mother's Song. And you can probably imagine why I picked this one off the shelf in the bookshop. I just was inspired by the title and flicked through and found this piece called In a Fever of Days, an Ode to My Mother. And it goes like this. My mother, your kitchen is a recovery room where we bend over rust-coloured tea and pour boiling conversation out. I have already opened up your cupboards for kettle chips, the fridge for the fancy brie. Now we sit, the tap still reliably letting go. I hand you over another heartache to mend. And you smile at my youth, flashing a space where a tooth once grew. In a fever of days, after all these years, you still shock me with your wisdom. If I am ever to have a child, and she was even half your kindness, I know my body would have made a good, solid thing. I will tell her mother how your words always met my emergency and became the cure for my wounds. And there's a beautiful picture that goes with that. I'll leave you with that. I wonder who are the people whose words hold your heartaches and are the cures for your wounds. My mother certainly is that for me, and I am endlessly thankful for her. I hope that you have good people in your life who are speaking that sort of truth over you, and good moments to remember what your identity is. And I hope, above all, that you remember that you are fully seen and fully known and fully loved. And I'll chat to you next time. Bye.